one domestic fitting found in every household until a couple of generations ago was the oil lamp. The simple little oil lamp was the key to life after sundown. It gave light, and without it there could be nothing in the evening time. And so we find them in great numbers, and if you go into any museum across the Mediterranean world, you will find umpteen oil lamps on display, very much like the one you're looking at now. They were very often decorated in a simple way, sometimes with a mythological scene, as you can see in the little bronze lamp, or they had some sort of image, what today we'd call a logo, that linked them with a particular place. For instance, an oil lamp with an owl on it is a link to Athens. The lamp we're looking at today is a Christian lamp. We know it's Christian not only because it was found in a Christian context in Roman North Africa sometime around the year 400, but because it is decorated with a Christian symbol. And it's a curious little lamp because it survived for a very strange reason. These were used until they broke and then were thrown out. But this one split in the course of use, and you can see the way the oil went on fire along the spout and rendered it unusable. So at a very early stage, before it was broken, someone decided this is no longer fit for purpose, and it was thrown out, and then it was discovered by archaeologists a few decades ago. How do we know it's Christian? Well, it has on the top of the lamp the chi-rho, the first two letters of the word Christ in Greek. An X is the Greek letter chi, CH, and CHR is the letter that looks like a modern letter P. It's a curious image in that if you look carefully, the P is reversed. This was made for a mass market, and it was made by someone who didn't really understand. He was a Latin speaker, he worked in a Latin pottery, and he didn't really understand what the significance of the image was. And so it's actually the P, the Greek letter rho, is turned back to front. But that doesn't seem to have bothered the person who bought it. The Christian who bought it either didn't notice this or didn't realize it was back to front and had any significance. For them, it was a Christian lamp. And this symbol, the chi-rho, was, by the year 400, a very standard image among Christians. We can see it, for instance, in these gravestones, which come from Rome. Here we have the name of the deceased, and that they died as Christians is indicated by the use of the chi-rho. For the owner of our lamp, that their lamp had a chi-rho on it, not only indicated their own religion, that they were Christians rather than pagans, but it gives us an insight into the way they thought about their religion. For instance, we normally think of religious objects as great, large objects connected with the public, official religious cult, the Christian liturgy. But here is an object that comes from the domestic space. It's a private object. It would only have been seen by half a dozen people in a household in the room in which it was lit. This is religion that is up close and personal. For the people who used this lamp, it was a practical aid, it gave light, but it was also a way of invoking the name of Christ. And in invoking the name of Christ, every time they lit it, they saw themselves as engaged in a very simple act of domestic devotion. To light this lamp was a prayer. And of course, many of these prayers have come down to us. Writing around the same time in Greece, a Greek theologian says, St. Basil the Great, that there was a little prayer called the Light of Evening. And it was so ancient, already in the 4th century, that no one could remember when it was composed. So we have to think of a domestic space and someone, probably the woman in the household, actually lighting this lamp and saying some prayer which thanked God for light and praised Christ as the light of the evening. And remembering Christ as light would then have brought back a whole range of images. When we think of this lamp being lit, we have to think of the act of lighting it as an act of prayer and thanksgiving. The woman who lit it may not have invoked a long prayer like Fos Hilaron, the light of evening, but she may have remembered stories like the story Jesus told about the foolish maidens and the wise maidens. The foolish maidens didn't bring spare oil for their lamps, whereas the wise maidens did bring spare oil and were there when the bridegroom arrived. She may have remembered sayings like, "Let your faith be like a lamp that is set on a lampstand and gives light to those around, and that is not hidden." And from much later, we know that there were prayers when the lights were lit that were as simple as, "God, give us the light of heaven." So this lamp is a formal object of lighting, but an informal object of religion. And the imagery upon it is not only that Christ is the light of the household, but if you look around the outside of the chi-rho, you will see a laurel wreath. This is Christ, the victorious one, is the light of the household. This lamp probably cost no more than a few pence when it was made. It was defective in manufacture, and so was probably used only for a few hours before it was found to be faulty and was dumped. Now it gives us an insight into the way religion permeated the domestic space, and also insofar as it is an icon-bearing object with the image of the victorious Christ, and probably was used with a simple prayer such as, "God, give us the light of heaven," it is an object that links popular religion with the religion of the liturgy, an object that links that woman in North Africa around the year 400 and the way she would have remembered the great stories of the Christian tradition.